Welcome. We are here to honor and recognize people who have fought for justice and equality for all.
In early 2009, at the age of 13, Malala Yousafzai began blogging for the BBC about living under the Taliban's threats to deny education. Malala, who lived in Pakistan, tried to hide her identity, but it was revealed in 2009. 1 year later, the Taliban issued death threats against her and her family. Even with the threats, Malala's family did not think that the Taliban would actually harm her child. This proved incorrect. On October 9, 2012, on her way home from school, a man boarded the bus Malala was riding. The gunman fired at her, hitting her in the left side of her head. The shooting left Malala in critical condition, but by March of 2013, after multiple surgeries, Malala went to study in England. On her 16th birthday, Malala gave a speech at the United Nations. A few months later, she was awarded the Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought by the European Parliament. 1 year later, Malala became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Still, through all this, the Taliban still considers Malala a target. The Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif said, "She is the pride of Pakistan. She has made her countrymen proud. Her achievement is unparalleled and unequaled. Girls and boys of the world should take lead after her struggle and commitment." Through her teenage years, she received multiple death threats and has required several surgeries. Yet Malala continues to fight for what she believes in. In 2020, Malala graduated from Oxford University. She continues to strive for universal education and genders to be able to learn and lead.
Cesar Chavez dedicated his life to improving the treatment, pay, and working conditions for farm workers. He knew all too well the hardships farm workers faced. When he was young, Chavez and his family toiled in the fields as migrant farm workers. After working as a community and labor organizer in the 1950s, Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association in 1962. This union joined with the Agricultural Workers Committee in the for in its first strike against grape growers in California in 1965. A year later, the two unions merged, and the resulting union was renamed the United Farm Workers in 1972. In early 1968, Chavez called for a national boycott of California table grape growers. Chavez's battle with the grape growers for improved compensation and labor conditions would last for years. At the end, Chavez and his union won several victories for several workers many growers signed the contracts with. The union faced more challenges through the years from other growers and the trimesters union. All the while, he continued to oversee the union and all the work to advance his cause. As a labor leader, Chavez employed nonviolent means to bring attention to the plight of farm workers. He led marches, called for boycotts, and went on several hunger strikes. He also brought the national awareness to the dangers of pesticides to workers' health. His dedication to work earned him numerous friends, supporters, including Robert Kennedy and Jesse Jackson.
Mahatma Gandhi was a prominent leader who employed nonviolent civil disobedience. He led India to independence and inspired movements for civil rights and freedom across the world. Gandhi's life and teachings inspired many who specifically referred to Gandhi as their mentor or who dedicated their life to spreading Gandhi's ideas. Gandhi's spirit of influence has been seen in the United States with Martin Luther King, South Africa's Nelson Mandela, British musicians John Lennon, former Vice President Al Gore, and President Barack Obama also referred to Gandhi when discussing his views on nonviolence and how he changed the world by just the power of his ethics. In 1931, notable European physicist Albert Einstein exchanged written letters with Gandhi and called him a role model for generations to come. Time magazine named the 14th Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, Desmond Tutu, and Nelson Mandela as children of Gandhi and his spiritual heirs to nonviolence. Time magazine named Gandhi the Man of the Year in 1930. Gandhi was also the runner up to Albert Einstein's as Person of the Year as the end of 1999. In 2011, Time magazine named Gandhi as one of the top 25 political icons of all time. Gandhi was nominated 5 times for Nobel Peace Prize, The last nomination was in 1948, but he was assassinated before nominations closed. In 2006, Secretary of Norwegian Nobel Committee said the greatest omission of our 106-year history is undoubtedly that Mahatma Gandhi never received a Nobel Peace Prize. Gandhi could do without the Nobel Peace Prize. Whether Nobel Committee can do without Gandhi is the question.
It's my pleasure to introduce the Toppenish High School Choir. They will be performing City Called Heaven by Josephine Fuentes, featuring Viviana Ochoa, directed by Miss Wixons, and accompanied by Miss Rodriguez.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American pastor, activist, humanitarian, and leader in the African American civil rights movement. King first started his campaign for equality civil rights with the bus boycott in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. The following year, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled to desegregate buses. Later, he traveled to India to study nonviolence and civil disobedience. Since then, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was committed on using nonviolence tactics to bring about social change. In 1963, King is arrested and jailed during anti-segregation protests in Birmingham. He wrote a letter from Birmingham City Jail arguing that individuals have the moral duty to disobey unjust laws. The same year, he delivers I Have a Dream,
speech during the march in Washington, attended by 200,000 protesters, which creates a powerful image and builds momentum for civil rights legislation. Congress passes Civil Rights Act of 1964, outlawing segregation in public accommodations and discriminations in education and employment. Later that year, King receives the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. The following year, in 1965, King and SCLEC joined voting rights march from Selma to Montgomery. Police beat and tear gas marchers. King addresses rally before state capitol and builds support for voting rights. Later, Congress passes Voting Rights Act of 1965, which suspends later bans, literacy tests, and other restrictions to prevent blacks from voting. In 1967, King plans Poor People's Campaign, advocates redistribution of wealth to eradicate black poverty. The next year, King is assassinated in Memphis during a visit to support striking black garbage collectors. Violent riots erupt in more than 100 cities. King dreamt that all inhabitants of the United States would be judged by their personal qualities and not by the color of their skin. King adhered to Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence. The struggle to persuade the U.S. government to declare the policy of racial discrimination unlawful lasted 13 years. Here is part of the last sermon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave. The drum major instinct. He says, before we judge others for their selfishness, let us look calmly and honestly at ourselves, and we will discover that we too have those same basic desires for recognition, for importance. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. It's a good instinct if you don't distort it and pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being important. Keep feeling the need for being first. But I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. Let us all aim to be truly great so our lives may be a blessing on the world.
The MLK Peace Drive. Bring your family and join our peace drive to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Monday, January 17th, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Our gathering and welcome will be at the Topnish Middle School at 104 Goldendale Avenue. At 10 a.m., kickoff Peace Drive. Help us celebrate safety. Please remain in your vehicle and maintain a safe social distance from your fellow participants. We look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you for watching our MLK presentation. We challenge you to do something good for someone else in our community. Monday, January 17th, in recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.